Part 2 of sentence style, shifts, mixed constructions, sentence emphasis, and sentence variety. Coordination. Coordination draws attention equally to two or more ideas. To coordinate single words or phrases, join them with a coordinating conjunction or with a pair of correlated conjunctions. To coordinate independent clauses, word groups that express a complete thought and that can stand alone as a sentence, join them with a comma or a coordinating conjunction, and, but, or, nor, for, so, yet, or with a semicolon. The semicolon is often accompanied by a conjunctive adverb such as moreover, furthermore, therefore, or however, or by a transitional phrase such as, for example, in other words, or as a matter of fact. Social networking websites offer ways for people to connect in the virtual world, but they do not replace face-to-face social interaction. Social networking websites offer ways for people to connect in the virtual world. However, they do not replace face-to-face social interaction. Subordination. To give unequal emphasis to two or more ideas, express the major idea in an independent clause and place any minor ideas in a subordinate clause or phrase. Subordinate clauses, which cannot stand alone, typically begin with one of the following subordinate conjunctions or relative pronoun: after, although, as if, because, before, even though, where, since, so that, though, unless, until, when, whether, which, while, whom, whose, if. Let your intended meaning determine which idea you emphasize. Combine choppy sentences. Short sentences demand attention, so you should use them primarily for emphasis. Too many short sentences, one after the other, make for a choppy style. If an idea is not important enough to deserve its own sentence, try combining it with a sentence close by. Put any minor ideas in subordinate structures, such as phrases or subordinate clauses. The Parks Department keeps the use of insecticides to a minimum. The city is concerned about the environment. The Parks Department keeps the use of insecticides to a minimum because the city is concerned about the environment. The writer wanted to emphasize that the Parks Department minimalizes its use of chemicals, so she put the reason in a subordinate clause beginning with because. Although subordination is ordinarily the most effective technique for combining short, choppy sentences, coordination is appropriate when the ideas are equal in importance. At 3:30 p.m., Forrest displayed a flag of truce. Forrest sent in a demand for unconditional surrender. At 3:30 p.m., Forrest displayed a flag of truce and sent in a demand for unconditional surrender. Combining two short sentences by joining their predicates, displayed, sent, is an effective coordination technique. Avoid ineffective or excessive coordination. Coordinate structures are appropriate only when you intend to draw readers' attention equally to two or more ideas. Professor Smith praises loudly and she criticizes softly. If one idea is more important than the other, or if a coordinating conjunction does not clearly signal the relationship between the ideas, you should subordinate the less important idea. Do not subordinate major ideas. If a sentence buries its major idea in a subordinate construction, readers may not give the idea enough attention. Make sure to express your major ideas in an independent clause and to subordinate any minor ideas. Example: Harry S. Truman, who was the unexpected winner of the 1948 presidential election, defeated Thomas E. Dewey. Revision. Harry S. Truman, who defeated Thomas E. Dewey, was the unexpected winner of the 1948 presidential election. The writer wanted to focus on Truman's unexpected victory, but the original sentence buried this information in an objective clause. The revision puts the more important idea in an independent clause and tucks the less important idea into an objective clause, who defeated Thomas E. Dewey. Do not subordinate excessively. In attempting to avoid short, choppy sentences, writers sometimes go to the opposite extreme, putting more subordinate ideas in a sentence. Excessive subordination makes it difficult for the reader to focus on the quoted passage. Experiment with techniques for gaining special emphasis. By experimenting with certain techniques, usually involving some element of surprise, you can draw attention to ideas that deserve special emphasis. Use such techniques sparingly, however, or they will lose their punch. Using sentence endings for emphasis. You can highlight an idea simply by withholding it until the end of a sentence. The technique works sometimes like a punchline. Using parallel structure for emphasis. Parallel grammatical structure draws special attention to paired ideas or to items in a series. We must stop talking about the American dream and start listening to the dreams of Americans. Sentence variety. In a parallel series, the emphasis falls at the end, so it is generally best to end with the most dramatic or climactic item in the series. Using an occasional short sentence for emphasis. Too many short sentences in a row will fast become monotonous, but an occasional short sentence, when played off against longer sentences in the same passage, will draw attention to an idea. When a rough draft is filled with too many sentences that begin the same way or have the same structure, try interjecting some variety, as long as you can do so without sacrificing clarity or ease of reading. Use a variety of sentence structures. A writer should not rely too heavily on simple sentences and compound sentences, for the effects tend to be both monotonous and choppy. Too many complex or compound complex sentences, however, can be equally monotonous. If your style tends to be one or the other extremes, try to achieve a better mix of sentence types. Vary your sentence opening. Most sentences in English begin with the subject, move to the verb, and continue to the object, with modifiers tucked in along the way or put at the end. For the most part, such sentences are fine. Put too many of them in a row, however, and they become monotonous. Adjectives and participial phrases can frequently be moved to the beginning of a sentence without loss of clarity. Example: Edward, dejected and withdrawn, nearly gave up his search for a job. Revision: dejected and withdrawn, Edward nearly gave up his search for a job. Tip: when beginning a sentence with an adjective or a participial phrase, make sure that the subject of the sentence names the person or the thing described in the introductory phrase. If it doesn't, the phrase will dangle. Try inverting sentences occasionally. A sentence is inverted if it does not follow the normal subject-verb-object pattern. Many inversions sound artificial and should be avoided except in the most formal context. But if an inversion sounds natural, it can provide a welcome touch of variety. A refrigerated case of cheeses is opposite the produce section. Opposite the produce section is a refrigerated case of cheeses. The revision inverts the normal subject-verb order by moving the verb is ahead of its subject case. Example: huge lavender hearts outlined in bright white lights were at the top two corners of the stage. Revision: placed at the top two corners of the stage were huge lavender hearts outlined in bright white lights. Inverted sentences are used for emphasis as well as for variety. This concludes sentence style, shifts, mixed constructions, sentence emphasis, and sentence variety. See you next time.